Do.
And welcome to the very first episode of the Board Report podcast. This is your go-to show of all things Warhammer 40k related. Competitive play, tactics, and the latest updates from the grim dark future. I'm Ron, I'm your host, and I'm joined today by my guest, Jort. How's it going, Jort?
I'm fine, thank you. It's a nice Sunday morning. Sun's finally out. We're done with the gray clouds, so
Yeah, I agree. We have a lot of exciting things upcoming for the Warhammer 40k scene.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to jump right into them in this podcast. So speaking of which, we will also be looking up to the Phoenix GT, which is upcoming.
Yeah.
And of course, the latest data slates, point changes and new detachments, and see what kind of repercussions they will have on the competitive scene and in the Phoenix GT.
Gonna be quite a few changes, to be honest, because of the changes. But cool. Also on behalf of the order, I want to say super cool that you're starting to do this, and we're excited to help.
Yeah, of course. Thank you very much for being here. So before we dive into the meat of the discussion today, which is the data slates, I asked you to bring us small highlights in what you thought was the most surprising or most fun or best thing you came across. That can be hobby, painting, or whatever in the Warhammer 40k scene. Jort, what is your highlight for today?
Well, my highlight for today is of course going to be the new Lion's Blade of the Lions of the Emperor detachment. Of course, it's unprecedented that we got this additional detachments in a data slate change. Well, maybe if you count that original Drukhari one, that was. This feels different. This feels very new and exciting.
Definitely.
It also offers a very new and exciting play. I'm sure we're going to talk about it more later. But the thing why I was most surprised about it, and what surprised me the most was the fact that it was rumored, like there was going to be detachments, but it was one of those rumors where myself and I think quite a few others here in the Dutch community were like, this is probably
Fake news.
This is probably the fake news. This is not going to happen.
Yeah.
They're not going to do that. And then it turned out to be true. That was quite a big surprise for me, to be honest.
Really exciting.
It is really exciting. Not only for us Custodians players, but imagine if you're an Orc, or if you're a Tau, or if you're any kind of, Demon player,
Yeah.
you're pretty happy with last Wednesday.
I can completely agree. So like you said, we'll be jumping into the changes of the data slate later. But before that, I would like to bring out my highlight for today as well. We talked about it a tiny bit before we started. My takeaway is the vphammer.com website. So I think most players that play on a competitive level, they either have a big board where they write down all their scores by themselves, or they use the Tabletop Battles app.
I use that one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's easy. You can choose your secondaries and it helps you a bit in scoring and stuff like that. But vphammer.com changes that up a bit. It does about the same as the Tabletop Battles app, where it allows you to enter scores and stuff. But it also gives you statistics on every mission there is.
Okay.
And it goes a bit further than that as well. It breaks apart all the missions in, can you score this in the enemy deployment zone? Can you score this in no man's land?
Right.
Do you need to be in corners? It breaks those down and it gives you statistics on what the next draw is gonna be and how high the percentage is in one of those categories.
Oh.
So if you're in Battle Round 3 and you really need to do some scoring in the enemy deployment zone because you drop something there and you can score there, it shows you have a 60% chance in getting a secondary that is scoreable in the enemy deployment zone.
Wow, what an amazing tool. Yeah, wow. I'm actually quite surprised that is the kind of data that I have been looking for, to be honest, because of course, when you're playing at a certain competitive level, you want a certain level of predictability. And sure, you can look at your app, like what's still
in there,
or you have the deck on the side of your table that's going to provide opportunity. But the way that this will work and synergize with like future turns that allows you to plan ahead for certain stuff. Wow, that's going to be a big boon, especially for newer players. This is going to be if this catches on, man, this is going to be a leap in the floor level of the floor. Yeah, a skill floor of the 40k, man.
Yeah, because I myself am not a really big competitive player. I mean, I dabble and I try to join events, And one of my biggest
Man went on a major GT in the Netherlands here the other day. This man 3-0 with 5 big nights. Not a big competitive player.
Yeah, there's no way but forward list where I took a Lancer, Atropo, and 3 gallons and just went,
Exactly.
okay, the only way I can go forward is towards you.
Exactly.
True, but that was a stat list, a stat check list, and not specifically a list to do a lot of secondary scoring. So if I had that website, I could have said, oh, my next one is enemy deployment zone. Well, I don't care. I'm going to get in there anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's go.
Yeah, we called it the Power Rangers because there was 5 big guys with different colors each. Imagine if you could have even more information about where each individual Power Ranger had to go.
That's true, though. That's definitely true. And that brings me to my another point, is that you need to know this website exists. If you're playing against a player that uses it on his phone and he doesn't tell you, I mean, everybody uses their phone during a game because normally it's just data sheets or tabletop battles app. But this, it gives you kind of an advantage that the other player doesn't have. I mean, you can argue everybody can do it in their head, but I can't remember. I think there's 23 secondaries or
18 secondaries.
18 secondaries. Oh, there you go. 18 secondaries, and I can't remember. Even if I'm playing Tabletop Simulator, I'm like, what else can I get? I can't remember. And then I have to look up maybe Warp Forge or another website that shows me so I can check. And this, you can just select the ones you already had, and it gives you the statistics. Should it be allowed in tournaments? It's just an extra tool. What's the border that you can cross that gives you extra information?
Well,
in your opinion, of course.
Well, it's true that if you were if one player has it and another player don't, there will be information asymmetry.
Yeah,
of course. But most of the early rounds of Warhammer 40k, in my experience, is information asymmetry. Like, for example, if we have a frequent tournament player that gets good scores like 4-0 or 4x, I mean, or 5-1 for something like that, that goes to a lot of tournaments, he will have information and experience that like another player probably will not have. So there's already an information disbalance there, and that's also part of a good skill set, that information, having that.
True.
This does level the playing field a little bit more, but if you don't use it compared to somebody who does use it, then like I said, I think it will increase the floor by a wide margin, because in my own play patterns, I have to predict certain things and I have to plan ahead for certain things, of course, you know, like the easiest one is always setting up to do 2 containments in turn 1, because if you draw that containment in turn 1, you definitely want those 6 points.
That's a big swing.
Yeah, exactly. So you want to put some units there, and that's something you got to remember. Not everybody does, and this will, some of the things you had to learn previously will just give you. I think that's
just shows you more information,
way more information. I think it's I think it's very strong. I do think it's interesting that you're like, should these be allowed? We have this tendency in our hobby to get even more professional, to become more efficient, to become better at it, and we improve it in several ways. We improve play patterns. That's what we do ourselves. That's what we call skill and reps. But also our tools have been improving with everything. Think about tabletop app, for example, the battle app. TTS is a tool. This would be another tool.
Yeah, but you need to know that the tool is available.
Yeah,
and you might have to add it to a rule spec. So, okay, this tool exists. We allow it. If you want to use it, sure. If you don't want to use it, don't.
Yeah.
Especially for newer players, because if you're a newer player and the experienced player uses it, it gets an even bigger advantage than before.
I think that the more experienced players already have incorporated some of these elements, like predicting ahead and planning ahead in their play patterns. But like I said, for newer players, it's going to be such a difference to be able to rely on this. Yeah, I think it's a good call that if you're a TO in the future, that you want this website out to make it available. On the other hand, I have a laser, for example, like label pointer that I use for line of sight and determining everything. Pretty easy, it's just a tool.
Yeah.
And I use it. And I know that a lot of people don't. And I remember the first few times I brought it out, especially when I was newer, I was like, here's my laser pointer, I'm gonna check for line of sight. People were a little bit laughing at me, like, look at this nerd with his laser tool determining line of sight. So not every tool will get picked up as easily as well, right? There might be some resistance from a certain perspective, but I think if you're gonna be serious about playing in a tournament, and especially if you're gonna be serious as a new player in a tournament, I think you definitely want this.
Yep.
So maybe this you could shout out for future TOs or the TOs in the Netherlands, and
Or just players that are
or
looking
just
to-
players, yeah, definitely. But like, show people this tool exists.
Yep.
I wonder what it will do to the hobby, because this information does it also like predict success chances or impact chances. And like, what if I draw area now in round 3 compared to
I don't think it does that as of this moment. It
Oh.
mostly categorizes them in how you can score them. Do you need to kill stuff? Do you need to be on a certain point of the map? And it just gives you a percentage on where you can be at that time.
yeah
So you just know that, okay, now I have to go to the other side of the map already, make sure I stage. So I'm in a position to do a behind enemy lines or take the enemy objective or be in my own deployment zone because the enemy has that ability to go to my side of the map. Because you use it the other way as well. If you enter their secondaries,
yeah
it gives you information. Oh, so they only have 4 secondaries.
they have area now coming up, so better get something in the middle. That's definitely and
Exactly. Or recover assets or something like that. Yeah.
and that would be the final step of information that I would like available to me. Like, if I draw a certain secondary in what turn, what kind of average points is scored on that.
That's a good point.
That would be also very interesting, because if you have extend battle lines turn 1,
Yeah.
you'll get it. You'll get 5 points.
Exactly.
But there have been games where I've played where turn 5 extend battle line could already be a little bit more challenging, especially when I played my Grey Knights and I would go behind the enemy lines to be a little bit of a wrecking ball. There have been players, also been choked out myself, of course, of my home secondary, where I wouldn't be able to score extend. So that would also be really interesting.
Yeah.
That would make it complete. And sadly, we will also like completely professionalized our hobby then with data.
True, but on the other hand, it is getting more and more organized, more and more set up that way already with the teams and the rules and WTC that's adding FAQs and updates and stuff like that besides the regular Games Workshop stuff.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. But
So let's continue on from the vphammer.com. I suggest I'll add it to the show notes so you can check it out, see if it works for you.
I will try it out for sure.
I'm not sure how long it has existed. It came to my attention just last week. So let's see what happens and if people are continuing using it. So that brings us to the main topic of today, the latest Dataslate changes. And for the listeners that are not aware, Games Workshop usually does 3 or 4 updates a year, where there are 2 updates where they update the points.
Yeah.
And there are 4 updates where they update minor rules changes or big rules changes and update the factions themselves. This March, we had a really big data slate with point changes incoming, and I think it suffices to say that it's a big one.
It was impactful.
It was impactful.
Yeah.
I agree. Because for me, myself, stuff that I was looking forward to is the overhead moments from Space Marines. It felt really suppressive as a Knights player because of course, +1 to wound. You never want that to happen.
Pretty strong.
But that's just me speaking as a Knights player. They were oppressive with Blood Angels in
Bloodless Angels.
Bloodless Angels
Yeah.
with Super Oath and more. Of course, we had the Eldari Codex that dropped. And
Yeah.
we were expecting some changes on that front. Then we have, of course, Slaanesh Demons that people were expecting to get nerfed somewhere around December.
Yeah. As soon as it came out, next day people, like a week later, the discourse was like, yeah, this is just too strong.
Exactly. So what has been your biggest takeaways from the dataset? We'll get to the detachments a bit later because I think that crushes everything in the dataslate.
Yeah. Well, the dataslate has either been, the dataslate itself document has either been like the death sentence for like tactical bridgehead. It got it. Legions of Excess, of course, also with their points and the entire package. It got a lot of changes.
Definitely.
But other than that, actually, the Dataslate was kind of light on rules changes. Maybe a little bit too light on rules changes for my taste.
Right. So what rules changes were you thinking that they missed?
Well, Eldar have this play pattern that they are at their best when nobody can interact with them, right? That's when they're always at their peak.
Yep.
Apparently, that also is true for nerfs. Nobody can touch them because the rules for I feel like the rule suite they have, especially for Inari, at this point with the way they can move at the end of your shooting phase. They can move the unit, and they can also use all their awesome acrobatic maneuvers for that move. I felt that one was like pretty obvious. The win rate,
much.
yeah, it's so strong. And sure, the Eldar data, the codex is not out that long yet, but Inari has like 60 plus win rates these past few weeks, and everybody, it's pretty obvious. It's just very strong. It's a little bit too strong in the way it currently works, just like the old Phantasm was too strong when it worked. I think they should have done that in the Dataslate, and maybe points. They also got some points, of course. LR. They couldn't a couple of points less, not on Fire Dragons or the Dark Reapers. I think they very deserved those extra points. But like Wave Serpents, I think they should have started to change there at the rules build, because LR
Instead of just points.
yeah, because I feel LR is already very elite, but also very squishy.
Yeah.
And there is a critical mass of units, but as long as you have these amazing rules, they can,
It doesn't, as an opponent versus Eldari, it never feels fair.
no,
It's always like, okay, so they can get close, they can do stuff, and then they just run away.
Yeah.
Without you even having the option to fire Overwatch, for example.
Yeah.
Or
the good call. Yeah, there's many things. So I think that was I think that was a little bit of a miss. I think also Space Marines, to be honest, especially my my preferred Codex compliant Space Marine chapter, the Ultramarines. I think it was time for a little bit of a nerf there as well. I think they've been overperforming a little bit too much.
just a bit less units in their army.
Nah, not less unit. I think they should have been added. If you have the Ultramarines keywords, you cannot get the +1 to wound.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
because if you have Ultramarines, you already have Rebooted Gilliman, so you will have 2 oaths,
That's true. Yeah, definitely.
and you'll probably take Calgar as well, so you can play with effectively 25 command points during your game. Flow of the game, you get 5 extra for Calgar, and Rebooted Gilliman can do a free strategy every player turn. So that's 25 free CP basically. I think that's also something that should have changed a little.
Maybe.
They were right there.
Yeah.
But they didn't. And I'm pretty sure my boys in blue are pretty happy about that. They came out like bandits.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of others I thought that could use the slide looking at, like maybe Creations of Bile.
Creatures of Bile,
Yeah.
their win rate hasn't really been that high, right?
No, but I feel like they've been stopped. Like
I
think
the other faction.
yes, I think it's very hard to play them very well into certain builds that were dominant over the past few months, like Legions of Excess.
Mm-hmm. They just
Slanesh,
exactly.
Tactical Bridgehead. I think they countered. I think they have a real bad time into there, and of course they were like the top meta dogs. Yeah, now that they're gone,
Yep.
I feel like
It's their time to shine.
It could definitely be their time to shine.
Right.
But the Bridgeheads, the Bridgehead in particular and Slash, I think they do deserve those changes. Maybe not to this extent. I mean,
the triple
not a triple tap to the head. What do you think were the biggest changes or the most impactful ones?
Well, it's hard for me to say on the biggest losers, because I don't play a lot of factions. I mean, I love the scene itself. I love the game, and I love the community. And I don't play the factions myself quite a bit, but I do see how they affect the scene itself. Especially the Slanesh Demons, the Legion of Excess. You saw that at the DTT Masters as well. They might be, I mean, you kind of skip a phase. I mean, not a lot of shooting, but you just go in. They just had units removed entirely from their usage. No Slanesh chariots anymore. They're just gone, and good luck with it. So I think that's good. The stratagem nerfs were good as well.
Wow.
I love stuff like that. Just minor changes. Removal of data sheets is not really minor, but especially if you bought the expensive double chariots
Yeah.
and you use them for like a couple of events and now they're gone.
Now they're gone.
Feels rough if it's not a codex change. Although Empire's
was,
Children,
right?
yeah, true. Maybe it is. And
Maybe that's a little bit of cope, but it feels like it was the change.
right, that's true. And what I do like though is if we look at the positive changes. I mean, we had some buffs. Sisters, for example, Adepta Solaritas. They
Emperor be praised.
they were from top tier army. Everybody, top tiers were using them because, I mean, Miracle Dice were just awesome.
Yeah.
And you had no Miracle Dice anymore. They were just gone.
Yeah, you were. Yeah.
It was really hard to play with them in a competitive scene. You saw their win rate drop quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I think they completely reversed the nerfs on their rule changes for the Miracle Dice.
Not completely, but you did get one important rule back. That you get one for every one of your unit they die. Yeah. And that was pretty impactful because would see a lot of sisters just run individual Valentines or like the canonesses and stuff like that. And send them out as a melee missile, and if they did their dirty, bloody job, then you would get a bonus Miracle Dice. And that was an important part of their play pattern, of course. And that has been restored. I think that's pretty important for them. So yeah, they're gonna have a lot more of those Miracle Dice.
Yeah.
I don't think they reopened the floodgates at the start of the codex.
Yeah.
But they didn't need it, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
They were on the edge of not being usable at all.
Yeah, I believe there was one weekend where they had a 21% win rate. I don't think they were ever really like that bad.
Yeah.
But StatCheck actually also really who was it? I believe it was StatCheck. They did a nice report on it, and they didn't like they just got abandoned the faction as well.
Yeah.
Every good player abandoned the faction, and yeah, when that happens, yeah, the drop off is gonna be big. Usually it's also great because you get nerfs the next Dataslate, so always hope that happens. But yeah, I think they deserved it. They've been in a naughty corner.
I agree. I don't think they were that bad at 20%. That's what, like you said, when the good players abandon an army, then you have the new players, and they usually skew the percentage downwards anyway.
Yeah,
that's what happens with the lists. And what surprised me, of course, as an Imperial Knights player, is that there were even though Imperial Knights have been really high on their win percentage over the last couple of months, and they're a stat checklist army, they had no nerfs at all. Not even Canis Rex got any point changes.
No, well, that's the first time in the year he doesn't get any point changes.
Yeah, true, definitely. But he started at 400, or I think even below 400.
I believe he started at like 380 or something.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Ridiculous.
I would take him for 380, but
I would take him for 450.
Yeah.
He is really good. And they even got the two unused nice no one takes, the big boys, the Valiant and the Castellan. They got point nerfs.
Yeah.
So they are cheaper now, below 500.
Yeah, I think that is has in big parts plays with like how does a meta develop, right? Because Slanesh and the Keepers of Success, they struggle unless their fiends got in and got like all the rerolls and stuff. They would struggle with killing T10 or higher tough bodies because the Keepers would only have like strength 9, damage 3. It's not the best profile. But they would keep other armies down.
True.
Right? And I think Knights experience that brief window, maybe it's gonna extend, of like where a lot of natural predators just get pushed back. They're not that viable anymore. And then they can shine themselves because they do have a lot of OC8, fixed Q bodies with T10. They are Knights. So
Feel no pain.
Let's
go. Yeah.
It's always good.
Yeah.
Especially maybe that feel no pain. We might have underestimated that initially or forgot about it because I feel like all the good armies, especially the ones that do want to do something with durability, they had to have like a good accessible or pretty general available feel no pain rule.
Yeah. I agree. I think compared to 9th edition, what Games Workshop changed is that versus all the 4 invulnerable saves that we had, were 3 up saves and 2 up saves from Terminators with cover, saving everything on 2s.
Yeah.
They changed that, so saves are rarer, but fuel pains are easier to access for house factions, which is good because it's an extra dice roll, but it's not as suppressive as just rolling 4s on a completely filled save is.
Yeah.
If I do 6 damage, you might save 3 or 2.
If you're lucky, yeah.
If you're lucky, I mean, that's okay. That feels better than just playing against Custodians where they're rolling all their 4s and all your damage 3 or damage 6 or whatever you're doing, they get saved.
Yeah. Yeah.
It balances the elite armies where they have less attacks but more powerful versus the guard where they had 80 attacks, maybe hitting on 4s and wounding on lethals, basically, but just going through the volume of attacks. And
Yeah.
I think it's a good balance.
It's interesting, right? That true durability has been moved to that perspective. We've seen that before in like Tick City back in 9th, because they were also really powerful on those big Talos bodies. Not per se because that's just an amazing save, but they had a save, an invulnerable save, and then they had that funnel pain.
Right.
And I think that the mechanic is much more prevalent in 10th. I think a lot of the durability that persists at this point, because we have upped the lethality of the game, especially from the start. It's more lethal now. I think with the nerf of True Silver Armor or Armor of Contempt.
Right, yeah.
I think the biggest factor for true durability is
Funnel pains.
funnel pains, yeah.
Either through stratagems or
easy access or general access, and knights have it on 6s by default. And if they got they did a good deed, then they got it on a 5+, and I think
good deed. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Honorable.
then when they're honorable boys. But yeah, I think that created an ecosystem for the knights in particular where they could try.
Yeah.
And I'm very curious to see if that's still gonna if that's gonna last, because we see, well, Custodians got a new lease on life in a certain extent, and I don't think knights are gonna like it. I think the new orcs.
Yeah.
I don't think they don't mind tanks or knights at all with all their buffs. We'll see if this if they can continue, or if they're gonna suffer from this change in the ecosystem.
Speaking about that, we have some big losers or small losers and some winners in the Dataslate itself, but it wasn't just the Dataslate that they released.
No.
Somehow we got 4 extra detachments.
Yeah. Wow. What about them?
That was really surprising. I mean, first of all, that the fact that they kept it sort of hidden that they were actually going to do it. I mean, we knew the Grotmus detachments were incoming.
Yeah.
And this was just a surprise for me anyway. I mean, I didn't even hear the hush hush in the community itself.
Yeah.
I just like, okay, extra detachment, not 1, 4 at the same time. What is going on here?
For like mostly armies with a codex already. What?
That annoyed the hell out of me.
I can understand.
Yeah. But that's me as a knight. Again, the knights are speaking, of course. But there were 4 armies that. Did they really need something extra? I think the Chaos Demons one or the Be'lakor one, I think that was needed. I mean, he didn't really exist in the current faction. We had in the 9th with the Disciples of Be'lakor stuff, and this looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But then we have a Tau one.
Yeah.
We have a Orc one, and we have a Custodes one.
Yeah.
So let's start with your favorite Custodes.
Yeah, my favorite one, the Custodes, Lions of the Emperor. Yeah.
We'll put this in this perspective. Jort is the one that really loves to go like 4 Blade Masters or something.
No.
Full-on character army.
Yes.
Custodians.
Yes, I have Mace Ulrich Champions list indeed, with like 9 shoot captains or like 6 shoot captains and some Blade Champions. Yes, I have played that attachment for fun, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is different though.
Okay.
Like, I'm gonna be honest, I love Custodians. I'm a sucker for some things, so I bought the limited edition version of this Custodians Codex, and it's mostly been like the perfect paperweight or just decoration for my library, because it was not great.
No.
No, it was not great at all. And I think they missed a lot of the opportunities in the codex, and that's why we've been eating good. Solar Spearhead, I love bikes, I love Dreadnoughts, also love Dreadnoughts. But Dreadnoughts, they saw their power increase in massive ways with going through the walls, re-rolls, everything.
And just to be clear, that's the detachment that came out.
Yeah,
for
Solar
the
Spirit,
right?
Yeah, forgot Solar Spirit. It got nerfed. I'm not sure if it's gonna be, if it's the same. We'll find out. Could still be, but Lions it was a great addition. That's the point I wanted to make. It was flavorful. It brought something new and also like really unique. I felt like, especially for like the struggling faction of Custodes. And then they brought out this one, and it's fueled by the fantasy of them being the lone Lions of the Emperor, standalone warriors. Well,
The
take
epic heroes.
Yeah,
just fight. They don't stop fighting.
exactly. It's been written with that in mind, and that's a vibe I can gel with.
Yeah.
But like, the rules are pretty good. I mean, +1 to hit, +1 to wound, for already a very accurate and strong army with a lot of strength 7 melee attacks. That +1 to wound is going to be a massive breakpoint.
For sure.
Yeah, and
even wounding Imperial Knights on.
of course, yeah. I think the biggest winner is actually the Custodian shooting for infantry. Like, Guardian spears are just strength 4. Well, give it +1 to wound and it will do a lot more, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
And get a Custodian spear on a guard or on a Laris and they will have reroll to wounds.
Right, yeah.
So now we're cooking. And even those lowly Custodian spears can suddenly punch up big time, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty cool change.
And do you feel that because the Groppus attachment had the awesome moving through walls, gave you a lot of opportunities with your bikes and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Do you think because you lose on the mobility compared to that attachment, that it's going to be too slow to play in the current meta, or is it going to be good enough?
I think it's going to be good for Phoenix GT, because Phoenix GT is at this point, our maps do have very
tight sidelines.
It's going to be. There's very little maneuvering for certain armies. For certain other armies, it's a lot of maneuvering.
Infantry armies are gonna.
Infantry armies do have a slight edge.
Yeah.
On the boards we play at the moment, especially fast moving infantry armies. So bikes and Red Knights, of course, Dreadnoughts really needed that unstoppable to pass through as well to make those big plays. And infantry, of course, will always have an easier time just doing that. And yes, you will lose out on some mobility. If you take some blade champions, you still have pretty good mobility, and you still take like Venetari for Custody. So it is going to change, but it's hard to beat a 17-inch busting through wall and models, moving Telemon.
Yeah,
just
definitely.
Being there and then charging you. I mean, that was pretty sweet. And yeah, that's you're not gonna see that anymore with this new detachment. But you will see a blade champion leading some custodian guard, going 12 inches at least, and then with a good
charge,
charge.
There's solos where they get the buff.
And yeah, then they stand alone, exactly. Hopefully on an objective. Then they will have 4 rolls to wound, +1 to wounds, and boy, good luck to the person that's gonna be taking those saves.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah.
And so that's the Custodes detachment.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest one that we've seen a lot of discussion about, the Tal one seems fine, seems fun. Not specifically too strong, but the Orc one was really surprising for me.
Yeah.
We already had the tactical brigade that a lot of people were using, and they had some cool shooting stuff where you could get in the order. People had Ludas in them.
Yeah.
Of course, a lot of trucks. But now we suddenly get a more Daka detachment that completely changes the way you play orcs, in my opinion, because it's all about shooting now.
Oh, does it?
Well, you take a lot more Ludas for sure. That's the first point.
Wow.
And I think our Beast Boss and the Beast Boys, are they even in this detachment? Are you gonna focus fully on shooting? I don't think. Yeah, you're gonna do that, right?
That's what you're gonna do. I think tactical, we already saw like a shooting orc detachment.
Yes.
And of course, some of the more shooty data sheets, like the Tech Busters, already was pretty popular. You're already running like max of them.
Yeah. Of course.
You were in tactical. You'd also already consider running like flash kits and everything. I
Mhm.
think this is just they doubled down on it like so hard. Nobody was asking for
100%.
it,
Nope.
and like when tactical was there, it was cool. It was good, it was strong. It was
Yeah.
just it was
It was balanced. Maybe not bad, but it was.
yeah, it was balanced enough.
Ari had a lot of stuff. It was not just
Yeah.
shooting. It had some melee. It had some charges.
Yeah.
It was some
Stealth.
full package.
Yeah, exactly. And you could still pretend that Warhorde was the best detachment, of course.
Yeah.
Or you could, if you were running in a team, you could say like, hey, we need an archetype that can just rush the board,
Yeah.
flood it with bodies.
True.
Yeah, sure. Okay,
Yeah.
we could take this type of
Mhm.
orcs. Yeah, but yeah, that's over. There's only one correct way to play orcs now if you have any competitive intentions
Right.
or getting ahead, and it's just gonna be this.
Just more DACA.
Just take more. Who knew,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Just take more DACA. Apparently, that's how you win.
I think we're back to the 8th edition, what were called Yellow Moon, Bad Moon orcs, where they had about the same on all their shooting.
Yeah.
And now we're back to this. So looking at Phoenix GT. So for people that don't know, the Phoenix GT is an event. Basically, I think they took over the mantle or the champion from Alliance Open.
Yeah.
And the Order is running it. I mean, it's the Order and Tabletop Kingdom, I suppose.
Yeah, we do it together.
Do it together, exactly. And I think it's the biggest event in the Netherlands this year. There's no other event that comes close to the venue size, the number of different games that are being played there. It's just not Warhammer 40k. We have
True.
Age of Sigmar. We have other games as well.
Well, we are cooking up something. I can't talk about it yet, but
you heard it here first, guys.
What's already announced is this is gonna be this is already on the books, right? This is what we know about, and we almost have like 100 room for 140k players.
140k players.
There's gonna be AOS there as well. I believe they also have like 50 plus players. I'm not sure exactly. It could be 60, could be 70, but yeah, it's gonna be a good old fashioned big ass GT the entire weekend, and it's gonna be awesome.
Biggest event of the year. Yeah, competitive Warhammer 40k. I mean, there are other events, but this is the amount of players. Nothing else compares. It is an awesome venue.
Yeah.
For people that don't know, it's the weekend of March 29th to the 30th.
Yeah.
It's 2 days.
Yeah.
6 games. So we have 6 players from all over Europe.
Yeah.
And we're gonna play it on the DTT
terrain format. Yeah.
Terrain format, not WTC. We have a lot of other events we're using. We're on the DTT terrain.
Yes.
So
Dutch tabletop terrain.
Dutch tabletop terrain from our man CJ, of course.
Yes.
So the DTT terrain was created before this Dataslate.
Yes.
And it's not going to change with, I suppose. I don't have any inside information, but I don't think the maps are going to change before.
Not anymore.
Even, not anymore.
We had some discussion
Mm-hmm.
about the terrain. We're not going to change it at this point anymore. We reached that point where we're not going to change it like a month ago. We were like, we can.
It's fixed now. It's rules back to
Yeah,
exactly. So with that in mind, we have a really big event upcoming.
Yeah.
We have, I think, the best players from the Netherlands are joining this event.
I think so as well. Yeah.
It's going to be really exciting.
It's going to be amazing.
Yeah. What are your predictions on this deadline? Is next week Sunday?
Yeah, next week Sunday.
So people
Next week Sunday.
Next week Sunday. People have a week to come up with new lists, master lists, and hand them in.
Yeah.
What are we expecting with this data slate and these detachments in mind? What is going to be the main takeaway?
Well, I think that DTT is unlike any other of the terrain formats we play. It's unlike UKTC, it's unlike WTC, it's not even like player-place terrain as well. It has its very own particular characteristics.
Right.
And it can be very, it has very set ways and patterns to move on it. Like if you have a certain big vehicle, there's probably only like 1 or 2 ways it will actually be able to get through the other area.
Yeah.
It has some awesome staging runes as well. So I think it's one of those formats where it really will impact your list writing as well, and also the choice in like detachment, because there will be things that will work better on these maps than the other ones. And I think the data slate will give some new army, or will give some armies like that are fast, are infantry based, or melee based, like just a crazy shout out about it. But world eaters with like maybe some more demon princes, wings and stuff like that. They can just pass through those walls.
Right.
They'll give it a new they'll give it a whole new buff or improve their chances like way more than WTC board will, for example.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So the question is, how will it impact? Well,
Yeah.
I think it's a good thing. It will probably limit the insane shooting potential of the orcs. More Daka.
You can hide behind a lot of
Because
those strings.
there will be places to hide. Don't worry too much about that. But DTT is so particular that it forces like changes in your rules, detachments, or not changing rules. It forces like you to change things up, change things of your detachment.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be very interesting to see what everybody's going to come up with, because there's changes. I was planning to play Solar Spearhead on the DTT.
Suddenly we have a new detachment.
And now suddenly we have a new detachment. And so Solar Spearhead got like a little bit of a nerf. And I'm sure there's a lot of people with me out there that's going to be like, oh, well, this changes stuff.
Yeah.
I wonder what I'm gonna do now. Like, for example, what if you do play LR? Yeah, what are you gonna cup?
Yeah.
If you play tactical bridgehead, because you can go up and down, and you might be able to get behind some of those.
Which was really good on DTT terrain. That extra movement for scoring secondaries, because it's closed off shooting lanes.
Yeah.
Just dropping something in a
Yeah,
corner.
exactly.
It's safe to do an action.
And
Get targeted.
for example, yeah, or like being able to get outside of 6 and do some shooting. Yeah, it allows you to do some around shooting. Yeah, it's gonna be very interesting to see what it does. But like Slanesh, for example, even the keepers could work on the DT boards, because you could just pass through the wall.
Yep.
And get some nasty licks in. Now, well, we probably will not see them anymore. But yeah, I'm very curious what's gonna bring. I think if you want to make a real winning list, you gotta have real fast shooting, preferably on infantry.
So high mobile assault, basically.
Yeah, high mobile, so that's what you want to see. Also gives a lot of the movement, and it's also, I think, will require the most skill, like planning. And I heard there's a great new website that will help with staging and planning for that.
Yeah, to see your secondary list.
But I don't know actually at this point. It's also going to be hard to decide what to tech for. I mean, if you're going to tech, you got to consider like, okay, there's probably going to be some orcs running around there. They're going to try it for sure. I'm not sure how good it's going to be, but having the walk and having assault will make your guns a lot faster, of course. So it's going to, and they have so much stuff because they're underpriced.
Yeah.
So they're going to be so undercosted.
Exactly.
But not everybody has orcs. And so, yeah, that's going to be interesting. Nurgle's another one. We haven't even talked about it yet. Talked about Nurgle. Nurgle's such a big winner in like multiple ways.
Definitely.
Yeah, even with like Death Guard, it's normally like it's slow to get places. They can get places now pretty safe and be very tough when they get
in their stage and then
exactly.
Yeah.
So
even with their 5-inch
skirmies. Oh man, but if they or 4-inch skirmies, actually, I believe even. But if they get a Scout 5 to start to and get ahead, that will help. Now I think it's gonna be very interesting. I think it's gonna be one of those tournaments where the players gotta make the difference more, and they will have to bring a list that really will suit them. They understand it, they got a feel for it. And I think that if they do, I can't predict the winner at this point.
So that's actually really exciting.
It's very exciting.
Shaken up. You can't look at the States or other places because they don't use our terrain format. It's DTT. I'm not sure, is there an event this week or next week for DTT terrain? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
So this is probably just going to be the first event that is there. And I'm really excited to see what's going on.
Yeah, me too, man.
So you're going to be there. You're going to attend as a player?
A player judge, actually.
Player judge, actually.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're not playing yourself, or you're do at the same time?
I'm going to be playing.
I see.
And if you need a judge, you got to yell loudly that me or any of my other player judges can hear it, and then we will come to your table, check it out. I do have the special power to be able to pause my clock to be able to do this. That
sounds good.
That's a privilege that only the player judges will get.
Yes.
But I'm going to be playing it. I'm going to be judging it. I feel like the community in the Netherlands is in a pretty good spot.
Yeah.
Where there's not going to be a lot of discussions about rules and anything, or questions about rules. And sure, there are some new detachments, but
they don't sound
complicated. Exactly. They don't sound that complex.
Exactly.
So I think we're going to be. I think we're going to be good.
And I don't think there's anything because when some Grotmos detachments came out, there were some discussions about no, Games Workshop definitely meant this with this line, or that you can do this with a stratagem is ridiculous. There's nothing in currently that we need a ruling about. That feels completely broken and should be changed.
Well, I think sustain 2 on Arcade on Boris should be
That sounds
really broken.
but that's just it's a state. It's two. There you can't really argue or
exactly.
have a different interpretation. About
Exactly. Yeah, you can't rules lawyer your way out of that one.
No,
That's
exactly.
that's true. That's true.
There are no rules as written or rules as intended on that front. Except if you're shop and you want to bring some stompas, of course. Rules as intended, it's different. But
Well, it says Walker, right?
true, it says Walker.
It's Walker. So
If we see some stompas this time, it's gonna be excited.
if we're gonna see some stompas, I think it's gonna be great.
Yep.
I think it's gonna be fun. I think they will have a real cozy home in your deployment zone.
Definitely, I agree. And they can just tip your toe into the terrain and shoot. So let's see what happens.
Going into it a little bit more about that upcoming Finishing team. If there's still, I believe there's still a couple of tickets left, by the way. So
Ooh,
I don't know when you release this, but if you do, if you wanted to go, there still might be a couple of tickets left. And
Tabletop Kingdom website, right?
yeah,
The shop.
exactly, the Tabletop Kingdom shop.
We'll add it to the description and the show notes. Yep.
Yeah, we do have a golden ticket for the winner.
That's really exciting.
So if you wanted to go to America and show how good you truly are, this is a chance to go there because you can get a ticket. I think it's gonna be really interesting because we have like, what are you gonna take?
Yep.
Like we know players like Daan van Herk, right? He loves orcs.
He really loves orcs.
They're in a great place.
Yeah.
We have players like Jan Koen van der Lee. He is known for his particular love of Black Marines like Deathwatch or Black Templars. Well, I know which one I would take currently, but will you take it on the DTT format?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Like we have the Order's very own Stam, Kees-Jan Stam, and he loves elves. He will probably bring elves, so he will probably bring a Nadi, but like we also have guys like Root, and
he played a lot of sisters.
Yeah, he did
Before.
Yeah, but he also dropped them like it's hot. True. He dropped them like it was hot. No. He went to that's the Nash fountain of.
True, but they've been nerfed. Sisters are kind of back. I mean, he could play anything, I suppose, but
Yeah, but he loves elves.
Yeah.
He's probably also gonna go elves, and we have like our own Sam Williams, who also loves elves.
Yeah.
And we have there's gonna be, and also like what is a guy like Florian gonna do? And he's like because they love their particular blend of chaos. As what chaos is gonna be? Is it gonna be Creations of Baal, see how far you push it, or is it gonna be like
maybe Neural?
yeah, or like the new Shadow,
the Shadow Legion. Yeah.
the Shadow Legion detachment. I mean, also pretty interesting, right?
And can also, because it's new, a lot of players haven't played against it.
Exactly.
It can surprise you.
Yeah.
Suddenly there's a Bellicor in the middle of your army, hitting stuff. Who knows?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also how many players are gonna flock to Custodies now that the Fourth Wheel Dread Knights are no longer have to be like the core of your army, and it's a very easy army to pick up, right? To buy into pain, so it's always popular. It's melee, it's strong melee, so we'll do. How many players will we see playing that? Space Marines. How will our Wolf friends be doing? No, we have a couple of awesome Wolf players here, and will they stay true to the call, especially on these tables? Or I'm not sure, man.
Yeah.
I think there's gonna be very few Grey Knight players.
Even you, the silver champion, is going to the Golden Boys.
Yeah, exactly. Because I felt like the way I like to play Grey Knights, and this is like why DTT terrain is so interesting, and because it's so different. The way I like to play Grey Knights, and I think they're best suited to play. I think it doesn't really work on the DTT because if you want to build very shooty Grey Knights, it's very possible, but a good opponent will recognize how to stop this. How will they stop you from doing all this stuff and
outmaneuver you?
Outmaneuver you, yes, it's pretty easily if you play like Warbane.
You won't have a lot of units anymore as a Grey Knight player.
You never have.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So that was like, what do I want to do? I want to change, I guess, to Custodies, and at that point also Solar Spirit was coming out, and that made it even easier. Like, because I love that archetype.
Yeah.
I still might take Solar Spirit, to be honest, because I just love that archetype. But
Dreadnoughts punching through.
So cool.
Walls, yeah.
So cool. But I think there's so many interesting things we're unsure of. Like the Tau one is also, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Tau can have fast guns.
True.
They can have cheap stuff now with Crew Grandpager dropping. So they can have some melee punch as well. What if they make an unexpected run for certain things? I mean,
Especially if your opponents hasn't taken that into account, you have surprised them and just go for it.
they have guns that will still kill you
Yep.
really, really well.
So if you're gonna make a list for our predictions, because the list deadline is in a week, hopefully we can record episode 2 after list deadline has been hit and before the event has been done. If you have to make a top 3 of factions, the most popular factions that are gonna be at Phoenix GT.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah.
What would you say?
So I think Eldari, of course, the elves, because of their reactive movement.
Yes.
They haven't been hit with the nerf pad.
Sweet new models.
Sweet new models. They have a lot of movement. It works really well on DTT terrain.
Yeah.
So I think that is going to be my number 1.
Yeah.
I think it's boring to say orcs is number 2. So I think I'm going to go for Chaos Demons.
You think that many people have orcs painted already?
I don't think so.
I think that hobby lag that's gonna stop them a little bit.
Yeah, because they need so many shooting orcs, and people have a lot of melee orcs. Yeah, I don't think that all the different kinds of shooting orcs, including the Kilakans, because Kilakans are great with damage 3, and now they suddenly have sustained hits too.
Yeah, or all the Lutas, tank busters.
They had the tank busters, but now that they need the Lutas and they need the flash
hits. Yeah,
exactly. So I don't think they're going to be number 2. I think Chaos Demons and Astra Militare. And the Chaos Demons, just because I want to see them, because they're fun. I want to see a lot of different lists. I want to see Shadow Legion. I want to see a Nurgle list. I don't think we're going to see Slanesh anymore.
Let's hope. Let's hope there's still some die-hard warrior out there that's going to carry the torch for Slanesh.
Fun going with the Slanesh.
Exactly. Yeah. Goes there.
Do we have predictions for the Phoenix GT per year?
For popularity, right?
Popularity, yeah.
Custodes is going to be super popular.
And then a combination of the new detachment and old detachment, or just focused on the new one?
I think people are gonna... The old detachment Solar Spirit, I'm not sure. Maybe they will play some Shield Hosts. Maybe they will play some Talents of the Emperor. But I think the majority is gonna be Lions of the Emperor. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. And then number 2?
I think it's gonna be Chaos Space Marines.
Chaos Space Marines.
Yeah. Okay. It's always a popular faction in the Netherlands.
True.
I think, and they will work well on these maps. I think they'll have melee punch. They can have some awesome indirect shooting with obliterators.
True.
I think they can have. I think they can do very well. They can do very well. So there's Custodes, Chaos Space Marines, and number 3 is hard because I'm of course immediately going Space Marines because Space Marines is just popular faction.
Everybody starts with Space Marines.
There's so many flavors of Space Marines. There are a lot of them are viable. Blood Angels are viable on these kinds of maps. Gladius Dark Angels are very viable on these maps. Gladius, pretty much any kind, is very viable on these maps. So, yeah, but on the other hand, I could also see Guard. Guard is always popular in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
Hammer of the Emperor is an awesome detachment where you can just bust through the wall. Well, that's very powerful on these boards.
Especially on DTT, I agree.
On DTT terrain, yeah. If you can use that staging rune as a staging rune for your tanks.
Yeah.
For raves. Yeah, so, and they're a very popular army. So yeah, it's hard. But number 3 could also be Death Guard. It could be, like, it's crazy maybe for our more international viewers.
A bit more into the Nurgle toughness.
Yeah, them in particular, and they are tough. They work well on these boards. They have good action. They have good staying power. They have good OC. You know what? I'm gonna say Death Guard.
Death Guard. So we have Chaos Space Marines.
Yeah.
Then we're going into Custodes, and then we're into Death Guard.
Custodes 1. I think Custodes is gonna be the most popular one.
Okay.
Then it could be Chaos Space Marines, and I should say normal Space Marines.
But you gotta go hope for Death Guard.
But I think it's gonna be Death Guard. Death Guard is dope.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I think that brings us to the end of our podcast for today. So we have the vphammer.com.
I'm gonna follow that tomorrow.
We definitely discussed the Dataslate with the upcoming changes, or the changes that already have been hit, and how it goes against Phoenix GT. We have our our list that we hope to see on the list submission deadline, which is in a week. Make sure to hand in your list in time.
Yeah.
And if this hits and there are still tickets, I think there were only, because we sold out, there were new
Yeah.
tickets added. And maybe there are still some tickets left. So be sure to be there. I will be at Phoenix GT as well as a streamer. We will have a streamer table.
Super cool.
And let's see if we can find the factions that we discussed as a popularity.
Who are you going to stream? Do you know that already?
We had no idea because we need to wait until the lists are there, and we're going to see what pairings are up for the first game. We're going to have some fun lists. Maybe if there's Stompas, I'm going to also have some Stompas on stream.
All right.
We're going to have a fun stream with pool players. Let's see what happens.
All right. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Of course, big shout out to Tabletop Kingdom for doing Phoenix GT and, of course, being our main shop in the Netherlands. And thank you, Jort, for being here with as a representative. If you like this podcast, be sure to like it, subscribe it. I'm not sure where we're going to place it yet, so it's probably going to be Spotify, YouTube, something like that. But where you're listening, please make sure to upvote, like, and
I will
do it.
I'll do my part.
No, you do your part. We're going to be back in hopefully a week or two before the Phoenix GT with the next episode and discuss the lists that have been handed in. Thank you for listening and see you at the next one.